I'm not going to do a full review of the entire episode because this review is already so late. Let's focus on the super complex relationship of Issa and Daniel. I call them Issa Dan. I don't know if that's a thing, that's, a couple nickname that's going to catch on. I don't know, but I'm very much here for them. Correct me if I'm wrong. The theme of this season, according to Molly, is know better, do better. I think that with the know better, do better in mind, Issa now knows how to do better in a relationship. Even though she and Daniel aren't technically in a relationship yet, I think she knows how to be more supportive this time around than she did with Lawrence. Lawrence and Daniel are two different men. Lawrence was not as established as Daniel is, so as the breadwinner, Issa was not comfortable being the breadwinner as well as being the encouragement Lawrence needed. From a woman's perspective, being both is hard. At the same time, I've also myself been there. When you're with a man and you're the breadwinner, it's kind of like, well, if you not even the breadwinner and you're not even supporting me emotionally, then it's like, why the fuck are you here? That's what Issa and Lawrence went through. So I think now, and that we have Daniel, who Issa already has history with, who's more financially stable than her, seems a bit more emotionally stable than Issa. We see her learning how to be more emotionally supportive to the point where Daniel allowed her to stay longer. In the beginning of the episode, he said that she only had a week to stay. And then by the end of the episode, she had done so much for him and his insecurities that he was like, hey, you can stay as long as you need. Maybe that's just me overthinking it, like I overthink everything else in life, but we don't really know Issa as well as we think we do, which is why this episode was really refreshing to be able to explore their relationship. Just two people that are trying to figure things out and that don't really know where they're going next with each other. They don't know where they're going next in their careers and their lives. They're both just like flailing. I love the vulnerability and the insecurity that they both showed in this episode. Issa has her own things that, she's feeling insecure about. Homegirl has a 425 credit score. Like, she just has a lot going on right now. The scene of them eating after the club just really tied into the whole entire theme of the show, which is insecurity. Daniel has his insecurities, Issa has hers, but together I think that they'll be able to really complement each other. Beginning of the episode, Issa texts him and says, hey, you haven't really been home like that, are you good? And then Daniel texts back, thanks, I'm good. Just real bland like that. So Issa's like, okay, like Issa already, they're establishing that there could possibly be some tension between Daniel and Issa. Daniel is talking to his girlfriend and they're not really on the same page about things. Like, he tells her that he is going to the club to see the guy Spider, the artist that he wants to work with. And he's telling her about that club, and then she's like, oh, that place is too hood. And then she's looking at a picture of one of the little ball boys and Alexandra's ship, and then she's like, oh, I love light-skinned love. First of all, then Daniel damn sure ain't light-skinned, so he's like, what the fuck you trying to say? You're not interested in this anymore because we're not your light-skinned love? To me, that showed me that their relationship was already rocky. It was already kind of pretty much over. This cat and mouse game between Daniel and Issa is very annoying yet intriguing. I understand why they gave us that scene between Daniel and Vanessa, just to set the tone for the relationship of Issa and Daniel. So Issa's cleaning up and Daniel comes home and she was telling him, that she was cleaning up, and he gets a text from the guy that he's supposed to go meet with the artist Spider at the club, and then the guy flakes on them. Daniel's like, damn, niggas ain't reliable. This always happens when I'm trying to do something productive. And then Issa's like, well, why don't I just go with you? Daniel kind of slowly, reluctantly agrees to it. So they're at the club, they're outside of the club, and they both run into a guy named Khalil, who they both went to high school with. At first, I didn't realize that Daniel also knew him, but then when Daniel said his name to the guy at to the bouncer outside, he said his name was Daniel King. And then Khalil kept calling him King, King, King. So I'm like, oh shit, like duh. He knows him. Like, black men don't just randomly refer to each other as King. He's calling him by his last name because he knows him like that. Daniel's name wasn't on the list by himself. So then that's when Khalil pulls up and he's like, oh my God, hey Issa, you know, what's up? They hug, and then Khalil does, I remember he does acknowledge Daniel, but Daniel is just extremely standoffish. Daniel is standoffish because this guy Khalil is also a producer, and it seems like Khalil is where Daniel wants to be but can't necessarily get to right now. Daniel, as we learned through this episode, ooh, damn, I almost kicked my damn stand over. Daniel, as we realize in this episode, is very prideful. Issa is always very prideful. That is probably why their relationship didn't work the first time. Just at the time when they first dated, neither one of them was ready. And now I feel like Daniel is in a more emotionally stable place to date, whereas Issa isn't financially, mentally, or emotionally ready to date right now. But that could also be because we only see more of Issa's character than we do Daniel, because Daniel, as we know for right now, is more financially stable than Issa is, obviously. While at the club, there was just always this unspoken tension between Issa and Daniel. Issa goes to get them some drinks, and she's talking to this guy at the bar who has fucking green braces on his teeth. And while Issa's over there at the bar, Daniel is talking to two other girls that are like, oh, you don't sell weed no more? Oh, never mind. Like, the guy Issa was talking to was not all that. The girls Daniel was talking to was not all that. So it's like neither one of y'all really missed out on anything. Also in the club, Daniel is trying to tell her about the sound that he's trying to give to Spider. You know, he just wants his production to be a little more complex. Honey, he starts beatboxing in her ear. When I tell you I got turned the fuck on, I don't know why. Jesus Christ. He's so fine. But because it was him, and his character just exudes confidence and, you know, that masculinity, I guess that's what made it so sexy. Him beatboxing in her ear. Issa's like, come on, like, once he gets off the stage, like, let's just go talk to him. You know, you can meet him. You don't really need your friend Seven. You know, he's a flake anyway. You're already here. Just why not? Just take that leap of faith. And so he does decide to, but while they're over there, Khalil is already there in Spider's section. That already kills Daniel's confidence because, again, you have this guy who Daniel already feels maybe above him just because he's done more than him. And two, he probably already feels like this guy, Khalil, is already trying to do with Spider's sound what Daniel's already done. I think that's kind of the trigger that went off with Daniel while he was there talking to Spider, which is probably what killed his confidence. And then so while he was talking to him, Spider was just kind of brushing him off. In my opinion, I think Spider more so brushed off Daniel because Daniel wasn't as confident as he should have been. He was just very standoffish. So I think Issa purposely tried to distract Khalil by talking to him about his babies so that Daniel could have the floor with Spider, and it didn't go right. And thankfully, you know, in a rare turn of events, niggas got crazy, niggas started shooting, Even when everyone ducked down on the floor, Daniel, being the chivalrous male that he is, he pushed Issa on the floor and he was shielding her with his body, which I also found extremely sexy. Either his mama just completely raised him right and he just seems like a really good guy, or he still really has feelings for Issa. Probably in one of my favorite scenes so far in this season, Issa and Daniel are out to eat after the club and they both throw themselves a pity party. Issa is, you know, used to being the guest of honor at her own pity party, but you can kind of tell that for Daniel, this is new. Like, he's not used to feeling pathetic. He tells Issa that every time he tries to get off the ground, there's always something holding him back, and he's just never really able to get off the starting block. And he says if he were to die today, he would only be known as a SoundCloud producer, which broke my freaking heart that he's just so talking down on himself. And I'm also a creative, and with creatives, always gonna have some periods of stagnancy. I guess, is stagnancy even a real word? I don't know, but for those stages that you're stagnant, there's always going to be something that sparks your creativity and gives you that boost forward that you need. You know what I mean? So like, even when you are stagnant, you always have to realize that there's always something at the end of that. When you're naturally creative like that, shit is just going to start flowing. And I totally, completely, 100% related to Daniel. I'm going through that myself. You know, with my YouTube channel, with my real estate business, it's just, you just feel stagnant sometimes. Love the fact that in this instance, Issa was able to relate to him because she is also in the same stage of her life. She says, if I were to die today, I would only be known as a Lyft driver with like 3.5 stars. And I was like, God damn, 3.5 stars? But she also confronts him and tells him that he's good at what he does, and she's never really heard him talk down on himself. He was like, you know, at least you have a passion. And then she also suggested him collabing with Khalil, and that seemed to be hard for him to grasp because he's not used to having to ask people for help. I could tell he's extremely prideful. So is Issa. She don't ask for help either. But I love that even though Issa is very prideful herself, that she was able to recognize that he needed to ask for help. It's easier for us as humans to help other people with their problems than it is for us to see our own. And then he also tells Issa that she can stay as long as she wants at his house. And then she asks about Vanessa, and he's just like, I mean, it's my crib. So they go home, and Daniel actually does hit up Khalil, and Khalil is very accepting. He's like, yeah, sure, come through the studio, no problem. Kudos to you, Daniel, for finally throwing your pride aside and asking for help, because usually the biggest things in your life happen once you put your pride aside and you're able to finally get the help that you need. Issa says that she feels kind of tense from sleeping on his couch. Honey, Daniel starts rubbing her shoulders, and I'm like, oh, they about to get it poppin'. But they didn't. Daniel, he rubs her shoulders for like 2 seconds, and then he's like, okay, you can sleep in my bed. You know, I'm gonna be, you know, in the studio for the rest of the night. I said, Daniel, you piece of shit. You did that on fucking purpose. You know you want that girl. I would like to explore what they both provide for each other. Daniel is very prideful, and we see a lot of his insecurities, but we also see Issa helping him work, you know, get over his pride, because we know it's coming once their relationship becomes emotional and physical again. I would so love to see what Daniel provides for her emotionally. The things that Issa might not have done with Lawrence, maybe she's now applying them into her relationship with Daniel. Not saying they have a romantic relationship yet, because they technically don't, but they have a roommate a roommate type relationship. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.